Hello and welcome to my classroom. My name is Stephanie Herndon. I just recently got married, so now it's Morris. I teach second grade inclusion at Pulaski County Elementary School. So that means I teach all the academic subjects for my 18 students. Having a research-driven classroom that supports literacy development across the curriculum is crucial and critical in today's fast-paced education world. And the lesser amount of attention that we're getting from the students, we need to get as much literacy across in as many subject areas as we can to try and bridge the gap of literacy that they're missing. These are theories that I integrate often in my classroom. One is behaviorism, hierarchy and needs, information processing theory, social cognitive theory, and the use of the progressive learning theory. To unpack these theories and how they apply to an engaging student-centered classroom, spend the day with me and I will show you how my students grow as learners throughout our reading-centered classroom. At the beginning of each day, students start their day going to breakfast, even if they've already had breakfast at home. So that starts around 7:30. This explicitly focuses on students' ability to learn from what is going on in the classroom. Since all students receive free lunches and breakfasts, we are meeting their needs listed in the hierarchy of needs of their basic needs. So food, water, shelter, and safety. Those are all things that you gotta have. This requires us to have students meet their basic needs of food and water. After students have gone to breakfast, so this is around, depending on what time the students get here, I have anything from 7:45 to 8:05. They go to the classroom and we have a soft opening for our morning. So our lights are down low. We got some soft music playing, so it's very calm in here. So we gradually open up our day for the beginning. Students enjoy this time because they're able to check in, like how are you feeling? What happened last night, if something happened that I need to talk to you about, if you left the classroom bad yesterday, those are things that I do during that time. And this focuses on the progressive learning theory, specifically the idea of a social emotional learning environment, because it's important that you check on not only your students academically, but also them socially. So students specifically in my classroom strive on routines and procedures and then being consistent each day so they know what's coming. So this allows students to know exactly what's coming next in our classroom environment. So the use of routines and procedures that we follow in the classroom follow the behaviorism theory. So this allows me to show my students that we have a positive learning environment where they can strive and be the best possible version of themselves. And then we start our day. So around 8:15, we have our read aloud where we follow the theory of science of reading to work through a reading story. Each time that we read a story, we focus on different characteristics of the story each day. So day one, our read aloud focuses mainly on vocabulary and working through various vocabulary words that students may not know or that they may have trouble understanding, like we live in Middle Georgia, so I have a lot of students that don't understand what a beach is. So like one day we had a story about a beach and we talked about what you see at the beach, just the vocabulary associated with the beach. So seashells, sand, ocean, a bunch of my students didn't know those. And then day two is where we work through some of the deeper parts of the comprehension pieces of our story. And we continue this throughout the week. So day 3, day 4, and day 5 all dig deeper into our comprehension. And then after our read aloud, so about 8:25, 8:30, we go into our whole group reading time. And during this time, students will hit various types of theories that we must discuss throughout our pace of our reading day. So when we're doing this, I am modeling a lot of thinking that I'm doing and information for the students to see and understand the learning. This focuses on showing students how to think critically for their future in reading. So students need to be able to learn how to think through the text to be able to accomplish the reading requirements for years to come. We also create mini anchor charts during our reading whole group time that students can refer back to throughout the year to remind them of what you're supposed to do if you see a word you don't know, or how do I know what the main idea of a story is, or how do I know who my characters are, or what's cause, what's effect. And so my students really enjoy making our anchor charts. So we'll have moments of like, oh yeah, I remember we were working on this, and Miss H told me to do this, and like this and this and this. And so they can walk through the steps of how we think through a story. This time of our day, we focus a lot of our time on the theory of information processing because we are working through and chunking the material rather than just handing it all to them at one time and being like, okay, here you go, because that's not going to work with second graders. And then on days that we're preparing for our reading test, students are allowed to have a gamification day where we will play Kahoot or quizzes together as a class to compete for prizes. Typically that's candy or a homework pass. And they win it based on how many questions they got correct throughout the activity. So students have really come to love these days where we are able to play the games and work together as table groups in collaborative learning through the use of our social cognitive theory, where they're able to become more social with their thinking and their learning and work with other people. And so that just brings students like together as a class rather than like, oh, I'm just going to do this for me and then this is going to be it. After our reading whole group, so around 9 to 10:20, we go straight into reading small group and phonics, where my para and I work with our students through decodable readers to help them practice and master their reading ability to help them prepare for future grades. So this is where I have students on R control, and so we'll work on R control decodables, and then I have students that are on long vowels, and we'll work on long vowels, short vowels, and then I have some students that are even still in letter recognition, and so we'll work through those levels together with them to try and bridge their gap to get them where they need to be. And this theory that focuses on this is the simple view of reading, where students can use and focus on decodable reading to build those skills. So if I have a student that's in R control, I can't expect them to be doing compound words. So it's that like gap. Then at 10:20, students go to the restroom in specials until 11:30. And when we get our students back from specials, they go straight into our social studies block, which lasts from around 11:30 to 12. And this time, students focus on the historical side of Georgia, following famous people from history and basic economic and democratic ideas. During this time, we do a lot of chunking of material, which is seen in the information processing theory, and gamification of material seen in the social cognitive theory to try to make it interesting for the students. Because I know when I was younger, I would not like social studies because it was just like, oh, it's always so boring. And then at 12, students swap to go to a time that we call WIN, which stands for whatever I need. During this time, our students that receive tiered services, special education services, that can include OT, PT, get pulled out so they aren't missing our regular instruction time. And this allows us to meet our students in the gaps that they have, and it allows us to find the needs and build upon those to make the best student that we can. And my students that stay with me specifically focus on phonics and decoding. So they are seen in that simple view of reading still. At 12:30, we go to lunch and recess, where we once again meet those students' hierarchy of needs in the school, feeding them and making sure that they have plenty of nutrients in their system to be able to finish the day strong. And at 1:20 to 2:30, we are in math whole. At 1:20 to 2:30, we are in math, whole group and small group. For my math lesson, I try to do short mini lessons of the topic, and then I go into an I do, we do, you do model for my students. I will work problems on the board during my mini lesson to show them exactly what I'm expecting of them. And then we will work problems on the board together where they'll tell me what to do next. And then finally, they do the problems. And during the day do, my push-in sped teacher, and myself are going around working with the students, chunking problems and giving them the extra hands-on practice that they need to be successful in the math learning. And then during this time, we are focusing on the theory of information processing and progressive learning, because they are learning to work through these problems that are real world related, especially right now, because we're focusing on addition and subtraction. And then we also let students get on reflex during this time, which is a gamification of the math facts that they are having to learn in the classroom. This focuses on social cognitive theory that students are being met with that help to bridge their math fact gap. And then at 2:30, we are packing up and get ready to go home through the use of our routines and procedures for the end of the day, which fall under that theory of behaviorism. My students know that if they have kept all their numbers for that day, they get to use the random number generator on my board, and they're able to fill in their bingo chart for their reward that they are currently working on. So that's a day in the life of my second grade classroom.